And we're joined now by Saleem Ali. He's a professor of energy and the environment at the University of Delaware. Saleem, thanks for joining us. First, I want to ask you, how are the discussions about renewable energy figuring into the ongoing two sessions meeting?
Well, definitely in the last year, in 2020, Latin America has been almost one-fourth of the total Chinese investment overseas in mergers and acquisitions of companies, particularly. So this is quite a remarkable growth, particularly in that region. And in particular, the acquisition of the largest renewable energy company in Mexico. That has been particularly gaining attention, and what lessons can be learned from these acquisitions. There is also going to be some conversation around the opposition that is being encountered in some areas. Latin America has very strong indigenous politics and concerns around indigenous relations with developers. And so I think there's going to be conversations further around how to mitigate those kinds of impacts.
So China has been building up solar and wind power technology in Latin America and the Caribbean, as you mentioned, accounting for about a quarter of that portfolio. Clearly, the region is quite important. Do you expect in the coming years to China to double its efforts to focus on that region or to diversify?
Well, traditionally, China has focused on resource investments in mining and extractive industries in Latin America. And I think what we are seeing is a shift more towards the renewable energy sector. And so there will be some growth, but China is not going to lose track of its other investments, particularly in Africa, as part of the Belt and Road Initiative and certainly in closer proximity to its own regions in Southeast Asia. In Pakistan, they continue to have the largest branch of the CPEC effort, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So all that will continue in parallel. I think the investment in Latin America is just going to be changing texture, and there is a realization that there should be greater ability to diversify the investment.
China has clearly transformed its image and on issues like climate change and the environment, and has really become a champion of green energy. How did that come about, and how effective has it been?
Well, I think there was a realization that the early days of the Belt and Road Initiative were very heavy on carbon projects, a lot of coal investment. And given that China itself domestically has been a leader in renewable energy, there was concern from a lot of the countries that why wasn't China also investing in similar clean technologies with the BRI? And so in the last 2 years, there has been a shift. Now, I should note that there is still, so for example, 57% of the portfolio now is renewable energy projects within the total energy portfolio of the Belt and Road Initiative. But we still have the 43%, which are carbon intensive projects in many cases. And we have seen still a growth in some of the coal projects. So that remains a concern. But I think overall, China has definitely made greater effort to use its expertise in renewable energies domestically to do the same abroad.
When you go to green energy, one of the considerations, of course, is pricing. How is that factoring in some of these perhaps less developed or less economically advanced countries?
Well, pricing is linked to scale, and as you scale up the delivery, the price becomes more competitive. So we've seen that all over the world that renewable energy, especially green energy, solar and wind, has become much more competitive in terms of price as you scaled up. The bigger concern is the land use, that solar and wind require a lot of land area, and unless you do offshore wind, which is gaining traction, but certainly onshore wind and solar, when they require a lot of land, and you have in Latin America particularly a lot of land conflicts. There have been concerns around what they call green grabbing, that people are going in and taking large tracts of land ostensibly for environmental projects, biofuels or wind and solar, and that can potentially disenfranchise local populations, subsistence farmers. So I think that's where China has to be very careful, because the politics in Latin America around that are quite different from Africa as well as in China itself.